Joseph was the 11th son of Jacob and the firstborn of Rachel, Jacob's beloved wife. As a young man, Joseph was favored by his father, who loved him more than his other sons. To show his special love for Joseph, Jacob gave him a richly ornamented robe, often called the coat of many colors. This special treatment caused Joseph's brothers to become jealous and resentful of him. Joseph also had dreams that foretold his future greatness, which he eagerly shared with his family. In one dream, he saw sheaves of grain in a field, with his brother's sheaves bowing down to his. In another dream, the sun, moon, and 11 stars bowed down to him. These dreams angered his brothers even more, as they felt Joseph was suggesting that he would rule over them. One day, Jacob sent Joseph to check on his brothers, who were grazing their flocks in a distant field. When the brothers saw Joseph approaching, they plotted to kill him. However, the oldest brother, Reuben, convinced them not to shed blood. Instead, they threw Joseph into an empty cistern, intending to leave him there. As they sat down to eat, a caravan of Ishmaelite traders passed by on their way to Egypt. Judah, one of the brothers, suggested they sell Joseph to the traders instead of leaving him to die. The brothers agreed and sold Joseph for 20 pieces of silver. To cover up their deed, they dipped Joseph's special robe in the blood of a goat and brought it to their father, Jacob, leading him to believe that Joseph had been killed by a wild animal. Jacob was devastated by the loss of his beloved son. Meanwhile, Joseph was taken to Egypt and sold as a slave to Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh. Despite his circumstances, Joseph remained faithful to God, and God blessed him. Joseph prospered in Potiphar's household, and Potiphar made him overseer of all his possessions. However, trouble arose when Potiphar's wife tried to seduce Joseph. When he refused her advances, she falsely accused him of trying to assault her. As a result, Joseph was thrown into prison. Even in prison, Joseph remained faithful, and God continued to bless him. He found favor with the prison warden, who put Joseph in charge of all the other prisoners. While in prison, Joseph interpreted the dreams of two of Pharaoh's officials, the cupbearer and the baker, who had been imprisoned. Joseph correctly interpreted that the cupbearer would be restored to his position, while the baker would be executed. Joseph asked the cupbearer to remember him and mention him to Pharaoh, but the cupbearer forgot about Joseph after he was released. 2 years later, Pharaoh had disturbing dreams that no one could interpret. The cupbearer finally remembered Joseph and told Pharaoh about his ability to interpret dreams. Pharaoh summoned Joseph, who interpreted the dreams as a prophecy of 7 years of abundance in Egypt, followed by 7 years of severe famine. He advised Pharaoh to store grain during the years of plenty to prepare for the years of famine. Pharaoh was so impressed with Joseph's wisdom that he appointed him as the second in command of Egypt, placing him in charge of the land's preparations for the famine. Joseph's leadership saved Egypt and many surrounding nations from starvation. During the famine, Joseph's brothers came to Egypt to buy grain, not realizing that the powerful governor they were dealing with was their own brother. After a series of tests to see if they had changed, Joseph finally revealed his identity to his brothers. Overcome with emotion, he forgave them, saying, "You meant evil against me, but God meant it for good, to bring about this present result, to preserve many people alive." Joseph invited his father Jacob and his entire family to live in Egypt, where they were provided for during the remaining years of famine. Reunited with his family, Joseph lived the rest of his days in Egypt, witnessing God's faithfulness and provision in his life.